So my tax guy always jokes with me about how when I come in with all these forms filled in with everything to do with having a business in your house, that I'm one of his most organized artists, even though I tend to bring in a big mess of papers going all different directions. He kind of buys into that whole right brain, left brain, you're one of the or the other thing. The strange thing is that he's a drummer in the band who damaged one of his hands in a car accident. So he's a one-armed drummer and a one-armed owner of a very big and successful tax firm in our city. And he himself is constantly still performing as a one-armed drummer and as a one-armed tax guy, pulling on all of his resources and all of himself. I have a hard time with the whole you're more right brain or you're more left brain stuff, because I think it pigeonholes us and not always to our advantage. We need both and rather than either or. And so I want to talk this week about bringing your creativity, bringing your artistic, creative, reflective self to some of the more nitty-gritty stuff of business. You, by virtue of being who you are, by being a person who's drawn to inventing and creating, have an inner track to marketing, to figuring out new and innovative ways to tell your story of what you do and get yourself out into the world. If you're a poet, if you're somebody who does a lot of creative writing, you have a lot of experience with writing concisely and vividly, a lot of experience with using specific images to grab your reader, which would be fabulous for using in your marketing work. By virtue of who you are, you can bring a lot of your creative and innovative thinking to even how you see your relationship with money. For example, collaging or writing or otherwise using the arts to make visible some of the stories and ideas you carry about what you're allowed to make or not make, or how you can live or you shouldn't live as an artist, that then give you a little bit more right in front of you to work with and dismantle if it's not of service to you. Business planning is a lot like planning a long novel or big book or big collection of artwork that you're going to display somewhere. You have an idea of where you're starting out, you have an idea of where you're ending sometimes, or at least the process that will get you there, and then you surrender to it. With a novel, as it goes, you start to fill in more of who the characters are, what the scenery is, what's the plot, what's the theme, and over time, sometimes through research and practice and just throwing yourself on the page and surrendering, you start to find the story that wants to be told. The same can be true for figuring out what you're going to do in the world and how you're going to do it. And in the process, editing out what's not yours to do. Everything about creating your work or enhancing the work you're already doing to be more true to all of you also entails doing a lot of research. There's the inner research, constant research our whole lives, to really consider deeply, what are your motives? Why are you doing this? Why do you want to do this? Why do you feel led this way? Is it because somebody else urged you? Is it because it's truly yours to do? How can you get to the place where you are squarely and roundly connected with your deepest callings and let that guide you? But such research isn't just looking within, it's also looking at the real world around you. I have a bunch of this in this week's material, but it's worth continually asking, what are the needs of the people you want to work with in relation to what you can offer? And when you think about those needs, you may land on various conclusions. One might be what you have to offer is perfect for what they need, and then you start developing it accordingly. You might realize that what you have to offer doesn't really fit their needs, and perhaps there's a different audience or community to aim yourself to. Or you might realize that there's a different way to tweak what you were doing to really speak to the people that you have an opportunity to work with. In any case, learning more about who is likely to show up, sign up, contact you, hire you, consult with you, and why gives you an inside track into how to gear what you put out about yourself, while also continually looking within yourself and finding how do you put out what's true and strong and right about yourself. I also encourage people so much to research what others do and how they do it. Occasionally I run across somebody who's just started doing workshops or consulting for a living, or wants to start a center or a business, and they might say to me, I want to do something that's never been done before. And in almost all cases, my immediate reaction is, it probably has been done. It's probably being done in all kinds of ways. Not precisely the original way you want to do it, but in all kinds of other ways. And the more you learn about other models and other ways of being and doing and knowing this work in the world, the more tools you have. So sit around and hunt through the interwebs, find who's doing what that is similar to what you're doing, even if it's somebody in a completely different field. When I started doing workshops in my community, one thing I looked at were other people who were doing artistic workshops. Although mine were writing workshops, I looked at what storytellers and visual artists and musicians were doing. And that not only gave me a sense of what to charge, but also how to speak to people out there who might be interested. Of course, if you take specific strategies from another person, particularly a model of how to do something, you always want to give them credit, be ethical and authentic. Something else I want to land on is that there's no reason to use the I'm a creative excuse to not do the business of your work. So, as I pause here for water, I've heard many people over the years say, well, I'm just not a business person, or I'm not an organizational person. I'm just a dreamer, creative, intuitive person. So sure, that's great. Nobody wants to deny you saying how you identify yourself. But just like you have to fill in your tax forms correctly and pay bills on time and do all that other tedious stuff that the rest of the world has to do, if you want to put yourself out there via a business, a fiscal sponsorship with a nonprofit or center you start yourself, or in any other way that entails some of the nuts and bolts of publicity, marketing, outreach, bookkeeping, assessment, and so on, you need to learn to just do your work, pull up your bootstraps, and find a way to get there. Sure, you can barter with people, and I heartily recommend the barter economy. You might find somebody willing to do bookkeeping for you in exchange for taking a bunch of your workshops or a piece of your art. Over the years, I've traded writing workshops for car repairs, hauling rocks in my yard, babysitting, massages, quilts, custom-made altars, thank you Dixie Lubin, and garden produce, potatoes, tomatoes, zucchini, and so on. Consider creative ways to work with people so that you can get some of the things you need covered, but also know that you are ultimately responsible for the business of your business. And if you don't know how to keep your own books, there's all kinds of great online apps. There's all kinds of resources to teach you. A lot of communities have better business, well, not better business bureaus, but business education bureaus and other resources where you can sign up for free and get lots of help. Or somebody can just show you how to do some of these details. If you don't think you can do marketing, and you need to, and you haven't found somebody to trade with you who's a whiz at it, and you have to do it, then learn. Then just do it. If you think you hate it, find a way to hate it maybe a little less. to embrace what you can enjoy and find meaning in, to do it in a way that fulfills you, or to just do it at X time of the day, for 30 minutes a day, whatever you need to put in before you let yourself have a big cookie, take a bath, take a walk, and go back to throwing paint on a canvas or whatever you're doing. Along with this, I can't help but encourage everybody to root out unhelpful myths about the artist. The artist, the writer, the musician, the dreamy visionary as being self-destructive, an alcoholic, a drug addict, suicidal, misunderstood, or totally inept. Look at the people who have been doing this for years. I just finished Bruce Springsteen's memoir, Born to Run, where he talks about how he never did drugs and was pretty controlled in not drinking too much because he knew it would destroy his ability to make a career, and how he took care of himself, including a wonderful exploration of his mental health and sustainability and self-care, so that he could keep doing this work for years and years. Obviously, nothing seems like it could ever kill Keith Richards. There's other artists out there going at it for years. Ursula Le Guin was born in 1929. I tried to count her books, and when I got over 40, I lost my place. She's written over 40 books. She's been the subject of film. She's done all kinds of work in the world, and she's still going. The sense that the artist is this mythic, tragic figure is some kind of myth that really doesn't help most of us who are artists. So if you're still carrying that with you, consider revising that script. Along with that, for the long run, cultivate humility. Ask for help. To pick a cliche, feel the fear and do it anyway. Remember that all of us need continual education and support, and look at how you can create that for yourself and also help others find what they need. Finally, I'd like to just end with another cliche, the one, we are the people we've been waiting for. When it comes to how you're going to do your work and put yourself out in the world, you are the person you've been waiting for. If you feel like you can't, or you don't want to, or it's impossible, find a way out of no way. Find a way to get yourself the resources that you need through bartering, through working with others, through self-education, through stepping out of your comfort zone and stretching yourself to build your strength, endurance, courage, vision, and your work in the world. Thanks so much for hanging with me.